You will be fixed tomorrow. Can you hear me, Niles? Me, Niles, turn the sound on. Niles, turn your sound on.
That's a.
Hey, wait.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep. Okay, loud and clear. It's perfect right now.
Okay, I just sent a request in to have a blinds company come out tomorrow.
Yeah,
I did. I'm joking.
yeah, yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Hey. I'm gonna just hang on 1 second for Brian, so hang on.
Good evening. Call to order the July 12th, 2023 meeting of the Poolsville Planning Commission. On the agenda this evening, we have the announcements. Any announcements from staff?
No. Nope, not this time.
I did
Anything?
not have any announcements this time either.
All right.
One question, do we want that TV on or no?
Oh, I thought it.
Here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's not impacting, it's just for us, right? It's not impacting anything. We can keep moving. Okay. We have the approval of the minutes of the June 14th meeting. Old business of the comprehensive plan update with Wallace Montgomery. New business, a recommendation on the height variance for the Donegan property, and a recommendation on fish pool impact fees. Has anybody had a chance to read the minutes from the June 14th meeting? Any questions, comments, edits?
I appreciate that the times were reported accurately.
I went back and did some subtracting from the video length just to make sure we were right, so.
I noticed. Thank you. I motion to accept the minutes.
A second.
All in favor? All right. And on to old business. Old business is always new business too, right? We have some new stuff to talk about with Wallace Montgomery.
Thank you. This is Michael Bayer from Wallace Montgomery, and
Good to see
I
you, Michael.
noticed that Wayne Martin, one of my colleagues, is also with us tonight because he has been working on the water resources element, which is going to be our main topic of conversation. So I'll kind of ask Wayne to introduce himself, and we'll probably spend a good bit of time kind of going through the WRE, which we prepared in draft form. But just, I guess, I don't know, not Brian and Niles in terms of the next step. So the other things we wanted to talk about a little bit were in the packet.
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, let's speak to that first. So what
Go
we
ahead.
did is there's 3 chapters in the packet. So the chapter 3, chapter 7, and chapter 10. So chapter 3 and chapter 7, you've seen before. You've provided comments on it. We've incorporated as much of those comments as we could. You know, there might be still changes. Both Wade and I have gone through and reviewed them and made changes, for example, to the goals and objectives of both of those chapters to more reflect Poolsville and some of the objectives that we had as staff. Then other changes were made throughout to kind of connect with that, or in some cases, you know, just to add in more detail and to rectify things. So I think the easiest, my suggestion, and Wade can jump in if he wants, it might be easiest to go through the chapter 3 and chapter 7 first, in the sense that those are the ones that we might be able to get through more quickly. You might have more questions on water resources, or the other way around, just the way that I was thinking about it. So it's up to you guys.
Yeah, I think it looked like it made sense to Wade, makes sense to me. Yeah.
Okay. So also, I think we had talked last month when we were here that we're kind of working on parallel tracks to get the plan done. One is finalizing the few remaining chapters that remain, and we do have a workshop, I think 2 weeks from tonight, where we'll go launch into the versions of the municipal growth element, land use, and we may get into the economic development, as well as what we're doing. In fact, what I sent over to Niles and Wade this afternoon is we simplified the formatting for each of the chapters to make them consistent, and also to help in the editing process, those of you who work on documents. And then what we did was we flowed all of the text into the new template, and then we went through all of the comments that were summarized on the OneDrive site to try to make those changes. And then we've shared that with the town staff. And so as we move forward here, what we'll do is as everyone knows, until we have a final document, we're going to be reviewing, moving things around, making changes, et cetera, et cetera. So those will be fresh documents. I think we've talked about that a couple times through the last few meetings. Go ahead.
Just to jump in there. So the sort of simplified formatting is much closer to what chapter 10 will look like. So the previous ones in the packet are the ones from before, obviously.
Right.
Since you sent ones with the formatting today. Also, the ones that were sent over today have the maps. So things were particularly in chapter 3 and chapter 7, it now has the maps now. So once we take your feedback today, we'll incorporate in that and then share that back with you as well.
To clarify, chapter
Yeah.
10, the way it looks here is what we have in front of us and what was sent out.
Correct,
It
yes.
looks like what we plan to have the other one.
Exactly. Mhm.
Thank you.
So just to simplify that a little bit, so.
Yeah. So I'm working with Nikki Wiley, who you may have met early on in the process, to kind of work through the document with me, and so she'll be assisting throughout the way. So if you do have other comments as we talk about them, or you submit them to town staff, we'll be reviewing all of those and making the changes. But basically, we created fresh versions of each one based on the comments that were received to date, and then, yeah. Now, there will still be some loose ends and tweaks that we need to do throughout them. In fact, even with other staff from Wallace Montgomery have been having some conversations, because there's some questions that they have, for example, that we still need to get resolved. And there's some placeholders in the text as well. So we'll be adding some material, and then also adding the photos into the plan, both from the town photo library, I guess you have one.
Yeah.
We've taken some photos, and if there's anything that you all want to include as well, if we don't have one, we can coordinate to get a photo in there. So we'll be finalizing each of the chapters with the review, in addition to looking at the final chapters that we're drafting.
So, we can sort of start in with whatever you want to start with, or how we want to discuss this, but,
Yeah, do we, I mean, we've all probably had a chance to review. We don't think we need to go through it as much as just comments that we have on it.
I have some comments, not a ton, but a few little ones that I was thinking if we want to if anybody has any before that. On chapter 3, do you have some stuff? My first one is on page 4. Do you have stuff?
so in
I
chapter 3.
have formatting stuff, but I'm not going to talk about that.
Yeah, that's
But on
fine.
page 4 of chapter 3, so in the community center section,
Yeah,
that first sentence, either I need more information or there's some words that have been edited out accidentally, but there's something there that's really funky. The town is currently partnering with Montgomery County and MCPS, a community center, period. A POR for the center is already being developed. I'm just a little, so I think some words maybe were edited out, so I just, but
yeah. So, in fact, I think Martin, when he and I spoke a little bit earlier, had made a point about that paragraph as well, where there's sort of just, I think I edited something out, and then didn't quite constitute. So I'll redo that as well.
perfect. And then my next one on that page is under Poolsville High School, that second paragraph. So the first one just gives some information about Poolsville High School and our ranking. The second one's talking about our current renovations, but then it talks about afterwards how the community survey talked about all of these things that are currently happening now as being high priority. To me, it almost would flow better if that second paragraph went at the end. So we talk about what we heard from the community members and now where we're currently standing. Because it almost feels a little like, this is where we're at, this is what we heard about a year before we're at now.
Right.
So
So
that,
we can update that a little bit more to include where we're at. And just a note on the community center as well is this, I've had conversations with Fair Access about where they are on some of these things as well. So we can sort of look at that and maybe rewrite that to fit the current situation.
all right. Lexi, do you have anything up to page 4? Anybody else have anything up to page 4? No, I think if we stay on the same page and then we'll just go.
Okay, then let's go back to the beginning real quick, because I thought that we had discussed combining the goals and objectives, similar to what I see now in number 10,
Yeah,
and making those fewer and more concise, and then adding an action items. And I wondered if that was going to be incorporated in this chapter.
so two things. One is, in the drive, Chuck made some edits that are to that effect, to sort of do that.
Good.
Secondly, I think that was something that we'll want to do with all of them and check back through. I didn't combine those as much as what I did is just add in new goals and objectives or reuse stuff from the previous plan to make it more connected. But we can, and I took out some as well, but we can redo those to make it fit a little bit clearer. And if you have specific ideas you want on that, we can do that.
I had a few notes, which I will give to you. The other
Yeah.
thing was, under government and administration on page 2, the structure was really strange to me, and I
Yeah.
thought that after town hall should come the government structure, which should actually be expanded to cover more information about how we actually run our government, with more information on, the commission style, board structure, sort of an outline.
Well,
And then move the wastewater treatment plant under the public facilities.
oh, yeah. No,
So,
that.
like,
yeah.
because it goes town hall, wastewater, government structure, public facilities. That's a really strange flow.
Okay, and now I know, because Chuck had mentioned to this earlier, you thought of just removing that government structure in general?
If you're just gonna leave it as that one sentence hanging out there in the middle of nowhere, then I'd say lose it.
Right, if it's that, then it should go
Yeah.
unless you expand it.
Well, so here's my question, and it's the question, I mean, this was put in there by Wallace Montgomery, is one, do we want to move this to the introduction rather than have it here?
That actually would be better.
That-
That's-
I like that
was
too.
my-
Even
my
better.
thought. Yeah.
Yes.
So, just to follow up on moving things in introduction, I know we had talked about that a little bit last month as well, and Chuck had made some comments about adding some language. And so, when talking with Niles today, we were going to wait until you all had kind of decided if you wanted to add text or outline some
Yeah.
bullet points that we would then draft. So
For the intro, sure.
For the intro.
for the intro. So if anything else gets moved in, what we sent over today is basically the current status of it, knowing that there'll probably be some additions to it, either, again, from the town or in coordination with you all, if you want to outline what you would like to add to it.
And then I'm almost caught up to where you were. Under schools, with regards to the middle school and the elementary school, those are literally like one sentence. They're very, very small. They should probably be expanded to minimum to be similar to the high school, to include build dates, capacity levels, current enrollment, which I think is already there. And
Yeah.
if there's any sort of, in the future, looking at remodeling, updating, that should be included as well.
Yeah, so I'd sent over to you guys what the county has produced to us of current enrollments, future enrollments, and that as a chart to be included. So we can potentially add that here, or, I know we talked about doing that as part of the growth element to show other growth, but I think it was last year, or last time, in the 2011 one, it was in like
It was with each of the schools, I'm pretty sure.
each of the schools. Okay, perfect. So,
All right, and then just one more comment under schools. I know that Monocacy Elementary is not a part of the town facilities. However, it is an option for town residents. And so while I don't know that it needs to have as much information, it should at least be a byline.
yeah. And it is in the chart, because it's part of the cluster, so it
Yeah.
is in there.
I was gonna say, and the uniqueness of it being one of the only places where you can decide
Yeah.
where to send your child for elementary.
Elementary school is an asset to our community. That's an interesting thing that happens here.
Agreed. All right, I think we're up to the same.
Well, you skipped over one small edit that I had, but
Oh.
the section on the golf course, it's not called Poolsville Golf Course anymore. They actually changed the name officially to the golf course at Crossvines.
Okay, that's fine.
And so it might change some of the wording in there, co-located at the golf courses, Crossvines Winery.
Yeah.
you
Well,
know.
that, I think we'll just, that's their rebranding, and I took, the language I took about their mission was also from their website,
Right.
so I'll just make that with the title.
I also talked to Niles earlier today about like putting more emphasis on Crossvines, more so than the golf course. 'Cause I think that's like gonna be the big draw, and there's gonna be like a lot more people coming for that than there is for, I mean, they both should be in there, but like, as it reads now, it's like the golf course first, then Crossvines. I think it should be the other way around. and focus on more on, that's gonna be, in theory at least, like a huge draw.
It's nice.
Yeah, well, we can add that in. So the language references that there's a restaurant there, I think.
Yeah.
Farmhouse Bistro across.
It's nice. All right.
Okay, are we all caught up on the same spot-ish? All right, so looking at the parks, the only thing I noticed is that Beaver Pond, Perkins Park, and Lori Gore Park are the only ones that don't list their acreage. And the only reason that I'm bringing that up is because how many times have we asked you for that in recent
Yeah.
meetings? And it would be nice if we can just go and have that accessible to us. But they're the only three, and I know that they're small, but it would be
Yeah.
helpful.
We can supply that, that's not a problem.
And then the last thing I have is looking at that multi-purpose trail system, which is at the top of the last page. It might be good to mention connectivity amongst neighborhoods, because that is the biggest, a big draw of that the trail system, is that it connects all the neighborhoods to town center and to each other.
All right?
I had the same note about the connectivity
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with you. And I think that maybe, is that one of our goals, is to make sure that all of these tie in together? So,
Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and so we can connect that, connect that back to that as well. And also, I mean, this is part of what we talked about as well, and something that will come up is in the facilities, when we look at upgrading them, the multi-trail system is part of that as well.
And the last thing I had on parks was West Willard Fields should be updated as, it says, but future development plans include a tot lot. I think that's already there.
Yes, and also it needs to be renamed, but I'll take
Okay.
care of that as well. Mhm.
I also mentioned in Niles, I'm not gonna go over everything, but like that there needs to be more, I think there should be more clarity about the build a bubble over the pool, like build a bubble, to specify that it's for winter, so, you don't have people going like, well, why are they gonna put a bubble over the pool in the summer, like,
All right, is that it for?
I think so.
All right,
Transportation?
Can I just say that the goals and objectives are way more in line with kind of what we all discussed last time? I wrote down, my note was yes, exclamation point, because this fits better with kind of what we have going on, I think.
and just to reference back, we'll do as with the last chapter, as this chapter is looking at making it more like chapter 10, where the goals, objectives, and activities are all combined, so. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which we, yep, mm-hmm.
All right, I don't have anything till page 7. Does anybody have anything before that? Oh, I lied. I have something on page 4. So on page 4 at the top, under the existing roadway element, I know we talked about this last time, that there are 2 streets that don't meet ADA compliance, Beale Street and Westerly. I still want to know, why is that? Is there a certain reason? Is there a certain part of it that's not ADA
Yeah.
compliant? I mean, I assume that
So-
it's historic, but,
Yeah, I think Wade can speak to this a little bit, but mainly is when they were developed, so a lot of it was when it was developed.
Yeah, many of them have prescriptive right-of-ways across
Right.
them, or there's not a right-of-way established for a road bed because they were so long ago developed, that's all.
yeah, I think if it just said that, though,
Mm-hmm.
like it at least explains why there are some roads that aren't ADA compliant. And then on page 7, kind of in the middle of the paragraph about bicycle facilities, it talks about the Fisher Avenue streetscape plan currently being designed. It's already designed, correct? So that may be
No.
just like a change.
Nope.
No.
Yeah,
No. Concept only.
Okay, all right.
There's a whole process that we are currently going through on that, so.
Then disregard that comment. Sorry.
Wait, do we want to talk about what you and I talked about offline about bike lanes in this part of the plan?
No, and I think you're right, Martin, and really just introduce the concept of this. So Martin and I were talking about, is there a potential of adding bicycle lanes in some of the local roadways? And I said, well, they need to be evaluated for road widths, safety issues, there's standards that go along with putting and implementing bicycle lanes. So maybe just something as simple as, the town should evaluate the roadways for the addition of bicycle lanes on local roadways, and that's, that's one of the objectives.
Potential addition.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's a big if it's wide enough, if it's all those things, but, at least it shows that we're interested in it and we're.
Yeah. Well, Wooten Avenue, over by the skate park, which is wide and is curb to curb, that was one area we actually looked at and was talked about if we did Fisher Avenue, which we plan to on the streetscape going northbound, I guess, and the southbound to actually go on Wooten Avenue to come back out on Fisher Avenue. So it has been talked about.
That was never investigated, you're saying, if it was feasible for Wooten?
Yes. Well, we talked about it as conceptually. But it definitely would be on the list if we were to consider it.
Yep.
And there's some other wider roads in towns that could tie different things together, elements of our hiker-biker trail and different things.
Yep.
So we can add a line in for that one.
So then my next one, if everyone's okay to there, is page 9. Anybody have anything before that? Page 9, they talk about the LTS scores, and it says that it's on a scale of 1 to 4, but then there's a chart that has 0 to 5 on it right below. So maybe making that scale 0 to 5. All right. And then I'm good till White's Ferry. Anybody else have anything before White's Ferry?
Page 11.
You don't want me to go over my stuff again, right?
No, I have it, so we can do that. No, I think we're good. I was trying to remember if there's one thing that we wanted to say there, but I think we're good.
There's
No.
something I want to talk about, I think, in the water.
Yes, the water we do.
My only thing on transportation services and rail services is that it is pulled out as an action item, not explicitly stated, but talked about under 6 and 7 as our action items. But there's no comment in either of those sections that say that the town will actively advocate for expanded
Transit options, okay.
expanded service for bus. Like it says it under our action items, but it doesn't mention it in those individual paragraphs, and it might be nice to pull that back in. All right, I'm good there.
All right, so 13, page 13, the third paragraph down in White's Ferry, it starts with this study, but it never talks about the study. Anywhere before that, it doesn't say what study we're talking about or anything.
So, yeah, Martin had referenced this as well, and I think this is the study that Fair Access had generated, so I'll get the title of that, and we can just add that in to it there.
Next thing I have on that page is further down under state roads, the third paragraph. It's talking about Route 107. The last sentence says Poolsville thereby supports a request to the SHA to redesign this portion.
Yeah,
Is this in the works, or should it say Poolsville should lobby the SHA
yeah.
to redesign? And then the only other thing I have on the last 2 pages there, in each of these projects and plans, there's still no sentence on how any of this relates to Poolsville.
Yeah.
It's just what it is. Like, so Montgomery County Bicycle Master Plan, should this say the Poolsville Streetscape Plan will be designed to align with this? Or what this has to do with us at all?
That was my question, and really it doesn't have much to do with this at all. It's more of the 270 corridor and closer down county to some of the urbanized areas.
So one thought is just to have a reference to say, you know, the county is working on transportation issues as a footnote somewhere, and just say that we are monitoring the county's efforts or something like that, or say nothing at all, but it just, we can.
But there's not a direct tie to us, no.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like if it doesn't have a tie, or is that the same for pretty much all of these then?
That was my question on every one of them, same as you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if it has no tie, I don't know how it belongs in our comprehensive plan as a town.
I agree with Amanda on that. I did make a note that if these are going to be included, that they should just basically be information on how to link to those plans,
Yeah.
and not necessarily like, you know, as part of the county's expanded vision.
Yeah.
They have this plan and this plan and this plan, and for more information, go here. That's all.
The only thing I was thinking is if we could tie any of our action items to align with those, because potentially it could help us with funding or grants or
Right.
something.
So-
But if it doesn't, then I don't think that there's a reason to do that.
My thought is the main thing with that is, since we're doing pedestrian improvements and stuff, is referencing like Vision Zero and such, but that's more in a grant-making capacity than in the plan necessarily.
Or you could just retitle that section of other, plans, other jurisdictions in our area. I don't know if you even want to, but.
Yeah.
Because somebody moving to the area, not specifically Poolsville, may want to know what's going on in the county and regional areas. That's the only thing to see.
Yeah.
But then you're only talking about a subset. And there's a lot of stuff going on in the county and regional area, and that's more so than just those.
Yeah.
So why dangle just those couple?
Right.
I
Yep.
don't, I think maybe you dangle those, and I'll play the devil's advocate here, from the perspective that we are a bedroom community, and a lot of people commute downtown, and so those sort of transportation items would have impact to people living in town. While it's not necessarily town business, it is something that a lot of our citizens could be impacted by.
Then we should go out and find everything that relates to that, because there's things in recreation, transportation, a lot of other areas. So you're opening up a can of worms, so it's either all or nothing, I think.
I can see what you're thinking a little bit there, Lexi, but I feel like when we have the White's Ferry section, that directly impacts our economic development in the town and stuff like that. I don't feel like these other areas kind of have that impact. So I don't know that they're.
I don't disagree. I have no issues with taking them completely out. I was just saying that if there were going to be an argument for it, that might be the argument. But I don't think it's a strong one.
Is that it on?
So we'll take it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I got, okay.
All right. So are we good then, based on this? So this is just before we get to chapter 10, based on this, we'll make the changes. As long as there's, and I'm gonna connect with Wade here on this, but as long as there's no longer any substantive changes, what we'll do is we'll combine all the edits and the little edits, and then resend this out for just to show we've incorporated everything, and then do we need
Do
to
you
come
guys
back?
actually, hang on a second.
Yeah.
Do you guys really need to see it again? I think with the simple little edits we
Yeah.
talked about, we could probably just do them and then put these couple chapters on the shelf and just move on, and let's get them all
Yeah.
in a nice pile. We put them together, then send them back out.
That was what I was gonna say.
Just like a
So-
cursory review for mistakes and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, 'cause
Then put it on the shelf.
once we're done with all the elements, you'll be looking at it.
So, like, basically saying for these chapters, we'll take all the changes, make them, accept them, send them back to you one more time, but we do not need another meeting necessarily on these chapters, 3 and 7.
I mean, we're gonna get a whole big chance to do the edit of everything at one last time anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, at the end, I'm
Once all
talking
the
about.
chapters are done.
Once we get to
we'll
that
look
point, I'm
at the
sure there's gonna be a lot of discussion about the
Right.
goals and objectives sections, again, especially once we look at them for consistency across,
Right.
consistency in format, content, approach across all the chapters.
Trying to
Yep.
get a solid draft.
Yeah,
That's-
of the whole thing, yep.
That's our goal. But yeah, you'll definitely have a chance to look at everything as a whole, and then we can dig back in if there's some gaps still, or cross-references, et cetera. And making sure if it says something here, it also says something there. Okay.
All right.
Good. Okay,
Then,
yeah, we're good. So do we want to move into chapter 10?
yep,
Okay, great. Well, thanks, Wayne, for being with us tonight. He's done a lot of work the last month or so, looking at this, working. We've had several conversations with town staff to kind of pull all this together. So, Wayne, why don't you introduce yourself and then kind of walk us through the chapter, and then we'll take questions along the way.
Great, good evening. Can everyone hear me okay? You're good. Okay, thank you. I apologize in advance. I am having a little trouble hearing some of the conversation here. So apologize in advance, but I'll get with Michael and maybe Wade Niles, get debriefed on, so I don't miss any of the comments. So, chapter 10, obviously the water resources element. In a nutshell, what we had done was update your previous comp plan with new figures that Wade had provided. Chapter's broken down into 4 components. You have your water, primarily the wells, what they're producing, what's permitted, and what's being used based on your averages. We summarized a 10-year summary for both water and wastewater in the report, but we're only using the 5 and 3 year respectively per the Maryland guidance. So broken down into 4 sections. Like I said, water was the first. Then we get into the wastewater, and then we get into the stormwater, which in Poolesville's case, it's majority of that is handled by the county through the MS4 permitting. And then finally, the new section, or the new portion of the chapter that was added recently was the climate change adaptation, which is everyone's sort of struggling with what that's supposed to contain. We had prepared one earlier this year that was submitted for the city of Aberdeen and went through some iterations just to clarify what exactly the intent was to include that. It seems that in Poolesville's case, the flooding and other things that are present in a lot of the coastal communities in Maryland do not, are not as common. It's more of a drought scenario is what, we've discussed. So it's, Poolesville is unique in that sense. So we're just trying to make sure that we properly address climate change in this chapter.
Okay, yeah, I don't think,
So there's probably a lot of stuff in here that you guys haven't seen yet, especially the specific things with our infrastructure, and different things that we are, doing. So if there's any questions on any of those things, please feel free to answer or, ask those questions.
Wayne, similar to what we did with the other chapters, we do start with a set of goals and objectives. And so I think we pulled those together based on the existing plans and updating some of the language based on what we actually found in your analysis, right, Wayne?
Yeah, that's correct. I guess there's some new risks present, like, for example, the forever chemicals that were detected in the well. We had to add that to a goal objective to make sure that that's been addressed. And so you'll find that in there. And, obviously a lot of this came from Wade and others, and your consultant who handles, the engineering consultant that handles some of this work. you know, you'll see some language in there about the future of maybe consolidating treatment of the water supply wells rather than have individual treatment spread out over the, you know, the various sources. So yes, everything's been basically updated after a couple, you know, a few meetings and discussions with your consultant and Wade. And the reports that have been done previously. You guys have studied your water sources and the issues, you know, pretty thoroughly. So.
So would you all find it useful to have Wayne kind of walk us through the sections? No? Okay.
We'll just maybe go through page by page again, see if there's, or section by section. I don't know if anybody is making an overview, goals, objectives, that area.
Well, wait till they get all condensed into one, we can revisit it at a time.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about what we talked about? This is a good time to bring it up?
Yeah, so just to highlight, so Wade, one of the things that we had in this section was just the comment about annexation and how we're limiting, I think there's the comment is, we're currently not interested in annexation, or I'm trying to remember what page that was on.
Currently, there's no intent to annex additional property into town limits.
Right, and did we want to just, yeah, it's on page 10 of the chapter. And so what Martin had just brought up was just, do we want to make that stronger to just say, there is no intent to annex additional property for development into town limits, and just say it that
I
way?
think that really, I think that belongs in the land use plan myself, but.
Okay,
Well,
There's-
Montgomery are the experts on the placement of things. I mean,
There's that same wording also, wording to that effect also exists in a
Yes.
third place. It also exists in the municipal growth
Yes,
section. So
exactly.
I'm quite happy putting it in multiple sections, just make sure that it's the exact same
It's the
wording.
exact same
in
wording.
each of
Same
the
language.
places.
Okay, so yeah,
Concern that there's no intent at this time sounds a little bit like, political speak. Yeah,
Yeah.
because the commissioners have been very clear, like,
In the municipal growth section, I can't go find, but the wording there, I think, was very explicitly
Yeah.
clear, and it was not as wishy-washy as this, but
okay.
Okay.
you need to find all three references, but yeah, in right
Yeah.
way, I think there was that one in the other section listed too. that it's
Yeah, I
the
agree,
same-
Chuck.
So we'll match it in land use as well then.
Right, yeah, no, that language needs to be the same or very
Yeah.
similar. I mean, sometimes slightly framed differently depending on what we're describing, but I think that's pretty clear. And it's an important consideration because, as we talked about, doing anything else means we have to plan for future that we haven't necessarily planned for in this plan, so. Okay.
So I may just have some questions about some of the acronyms and stuff that aren't defined necessarily throughout. Like on page 4, looks like this entire table is gallons per day. And then when you get right below, I assume MGD is millions of gallons per day, but why is it not in the same structure as the entire chart above it? Like, that felt awkward to me. Also, if we're gonna use a new acronym, like MGD, just define what it is for me.
Sure, we can do that. And the reason why they are different is because they come from different reports. Permits are actually, as they are written, in gallons per day, but when you have to do your reports, it's all in MGDs. So the information comes to us. We can make them all the same or identify it. You're correct, we need to do that. I can
Perfect,
see that.
thank you. And then on the chart on page 5, and this exists in another chart too. The headings, EDUs, AD, PD, it does have peak demand as a side note underneath, but I don't know what EDUs or AD is. Average daily.
Equivalent dwelling
abs-
units, so we need to
Yeah.
do that. Okay, we'll fix it. We'll identify them all.
Yep,
Yep.
And then a little further down in water resource protection, there's PFOA or PFOS. It's in the second paragraph down, kind of in the middle there. but that's not defined anywhere either, and it's different from PFAS, which I'm familiar with, and it's defined earlier in the chapter.
Those are compounds of those type of things. So you can just make
Yeah,
that
they're
clear.
like subsets of PFAS.
Yeah,
Yep.
I assumed, but it was a little kind of left up to interpretation a little bit there.
Okay.
And then on page 6, the last paragraph in that top section, based upon this new threat, Poolsville is considering centralizing treatment facilities to test, monitor, and remove contamination more effectively. Should this be an objective or an action item? Or is this just something to consider?
Now, I think we had study that or something up there, didn't we?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that should be number 2, goal number 2, bullet 3. It talks
Oh,
about
yeah,
strategic
yeah.
planning, yeah.
Sorry about that, missed that.
We can make sure that that bullet and that paragraph are same language.
And then that same for that chart in 6, just if you can define what BOD, TSS, TKN, TSS in footnotes.
We just did a whole page of explanations for acronyms.
Just do a glossary at the beginning. Here's all.
I know.
Sorry, it's just for people who don't know those
Yeah.
terms or
No,
use them
you're right,
all the
you're right.
time. If they
Yeah.
want to read it, it's a little tricky.
And we can include that in an appendix, just to have all of the,
Yeah,
Definitions.
there's a lot of them here.
because there are some other terms in the plan as well.
Yeah.
This is the first time that it's been really like, there's so many different acronyms that I'm very unfamiliar with that,
Sure. It's a little bit more technical.
I have one other thing in stormwater management on page 10. In that first paragraph, it says, during this 5-year permit cycle, the county is required to add and maintain stormwater management facilities, restore, degrade streams. I don't know if that's restore degraded streams, if it's a typo, or if that is something that I don't understand.
Yeah, it should be degraded as a typo.
Okay, then I'm good, sorry. I wasn't sure.
In the water system section, system overview. So can we take, well, back up a second. First, can we get the whole Appendix A from the last comp plan added as an appendix to this comp plan? That's the detailed 7 or 8 page write-up on how the hydrology and geology works.
Yeah.
I don't think any of that's changed, and we send people to look at this all the time, because people get it wrong all the time.
So it's the detailed on all the wells and all of that?
No.
Or not the wells,
No, it's the one that, it's the one on the hydrology and
Yes.
geology.
Yeah, yeah.
It's Appendix A in the current master plan. You look at me puzzled, Wade.
Wade?
You have a puzzled
So
look on your face.
wait, he was breaking up a little bit. I had a hard time hearing him.
Okay.
So, Appendix A in the last master plan is the one on, it really talks about the
Oh, the drawing the
hydrology.
hydrology.
Hydrology and geology. I don't
Okay.
think our hydrology and geologic structures have changed much, so I'd love to see that put in here again as an appendix. And
But you
then-
want to have that in there.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then that needs to get referenced. But, back to the water system overview section, that initial paragraph, I recommend we lose that, and go take the write-up that Wade did several years ago after the last master plan, because we didn't have a good write-up in layman's terms of the water system, and it exists on the website in the water and sewer section, and there's a section, 2 paragraphs on the Poolsville water sources, lift that and put that in the water sources section
Yeah.
and replace what you currently have here. And then there's the one that's very important, because people always misunderstand how our water system works, not our sources, our system. So take the section on how does our water system work, right off the website, along with the water system resiliency, which is a little paragraph, and just plop that in instead of the current paragraph that's over at system overview.
Okay.
Or consider doing that, because we're constantly, people have misunderstandings of how the system works, and people, over the years, we're constantly referencing people back out to these web pages and fragments. Now we send them all to one specific reference section. It'd be much clearer for folks. You know the section on the
I know
website.
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So hang on 1 second. I'm gonna, so Wade, I know what he's talking about here. I'm gonna pull on the website, I'm gonna copy and paste all that text and put it in an email, and then we can look at it that way to incorporate. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just have a call, whatever,
It's-
that's fine, yeah.
Yeah.
It was all a summary mostly back in the day, so it's probably 98% still accurate. But it was just summarized for people, because a lot of people don't understand that why can't we implement hard water remittance across all of town? Well, because we'd have to do it at every single well site. And that write-up kind of explains a little bit about how each of the individual well sites works and how it relates to the different parts of town. People are very confused. They think, oh, you can just do it at the central water tower. So that's why I find it really important to put those overviews, because Wade spent a lot of time writing that up a few years back, and it's pretty concise, and pop it right in there.
All right, I just had a few comments. One, I thought this chapter was pretty good. I didn't have a lot, although I did have a consistent issue with the voice of the chapter, in that it will be dated very, very soon, and I'll give you a good example. On page 2, under the water systems, the second line says Poolsville uses an average of 525,000 gallons per day of drinking water, but if you read that in 5 years, and we've built another 200 homes, according to what it says on page 10, that's not going to be accurate. And I think it's really important, if you're going to give statistical data, that you date it. And so that 525,000 gallons is based on the 5-year average between 2018 and 2022. And so if I'm reading this in, 5, 6, 7 years, because it's a master plan for 10 years, then it's important for me to understand, without having to look up the timestamp, that this is dated information. And I found that consistently throughout the work. I did also note, as Amanda did, that I didn't understand a lot of the acronyms. Another.
Look them up, but it wasn't, like, the purpose of this is to be readable for everybody.
Right. There were also some little things like, that were sort of leading in there. It was like, finally, or only, or word choices that were leading in sort of an emotional response to the sentence, and it wasn't strictly, and I've marked those for use, but if you see me like crossing out words like only 261, that is an emotional response and not a fact.
Right.
So those should probably not be found in any of our writing for this. So, let's see, another place where I found sort of like dated issues where it won't age well was under stormwater management on page 10, chapter or paragraph 3 and 4. Also, it says that there will be an increase of 291 homes, and I wondered about that number.
So, yeah, we have to check that as well, because I want to say it's like 120, 39. Like, I'm trying to do the math. It's less than that, based on what it is right
We had-
now. But,
Yeah, we had an internal conversation about those numbers, and we need to look at those along with the housing chapter.
yeah, so so that's the other thing we're gonna dig into some stuff with the housing, so we'll compare it and make sure that's all consistent.
Yeah, because I thought that number was wrong, and two, I thought that there was, that there's a certain budget left worth of water, and that 100% of that is not housing. Some of that's reserved for, like, a community center, if we can get it.
Right, so that goes back to the other part,
Okay.
which we'll have to talk about. We'll have to revisit, or the commission will have to revisit, which is the water allocation report. So we'll all connect all of those things together as well.
Okay, that's all I had.
Okay?
I think that's our feedback.
Okay. Well, we'll continue to coordinate with
Yeah.
Niles and Wade on the comments and update our chapters as we get those comments in. And just to reemphasize the point, I think we're trying to get each of these individual chapters done so that we have a full set that we can then, once they're all done, review as a whole and see how that looks. So we're continuing opportunities to review and comment on this as we go forward in the next 2 months to finalize the document. Anything else?
2 months.
Yeah.
Yep, we've got lots to do. July and August. So we will be sending you some more information next week for the workshop on the 28th or 20th.
Yep. 26th, I think.
26th, sorry.
26th.
That day that the workshop is.
Yeah.
I know. I think that's a Friday, so hopefully
Yeah.
nobody's there.
Friday night, workshop.
Everybody likes those.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you again. And thanks to Wayne for being with us remotely.
Thank you, Wayne.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. So this, I guess, technically is new business, the recommendation on the height variance for Donegan property.
Do you want to come up? Yeah. I'll speak first, but I just
Thank you.
wanted
If
to
you
do
could
that.
get the staff's input first.
Yep, all right. So the applicant is requesting a height variance of 6 feet from the code for a maximum building height of up to 36 feet measured from grade immediately front of the unit to the dry well ceiling of the third level, and that's directly from the application. In their letter dated June 30th, 2023, the applicant provided the following detailed request regarding the heights of the townhouses on different parts of the property. So I'm not going to read through the entire paragraph, it's there in the letter, but the key thing of this, based on the conversation that was had last month, is the idea of having a maximum height of 33 feet on the Fisher Avenue side, then going to 36 feet on sort of the backside, for lack of a better reference, of the property, as detailed there. And that was based on the conversation we had last month. So the action for the Planning Commission is to do a recommendation, and then this goes before the Board of Zoning Appeals. And that ends my report. Do you need to add anything, Wade?
Nope.
Yeah, it's pretty much exactly what we talked about.
Can you say what we would need to say one more time?
So, if you were to make a motion,
The wording.
the wording, yeah,
So I make a motion to the BZA to approve the wording for the height variance that the applicant proposed
just say, in their letter dated June 30th.
in their letter dated June 30th.
Chuck said second, right? Your mic wasn't on.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? All right. Motion passes. Thank you very much. That's
Yeah,
it.
that's it.
John will be in touch with you with a date for the BZA.
I'd like to argue about it.
John, by the way, your letter back to the town, that's one of the better written summaries of issues, analysis, and responses that I've seen in 15-plus years of doing this, so that was very nice.
Wrote it isn't here.
Because then you'd have to
Well-
pay them more.
Well, just let him know, because I mean, it does a very nice job of summarizing the issue, the discussion, the pros and cons.
And hopefully, we can see if that's make some of that happen.
Yeah.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
When do I get to be old business?
Right, I was looking, I was like, wait a minute, you've been here before, but technically this variance is new business.
Because you submitted the application, it falls under new business, because it's a new item.
Preliminary plan would be old before.
Exactly.
Not that I don't enjoy this conversation. All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And moving right along to our second item of new business is the recommendation on fish pool impact fees. You have some staff comments?
Wade, do you want to go over your letter?
Yep, let me get my stuff in here. So I put this letter together, and I don't want you to think I'm picking sides, or staff always tries to remain neutral in anything like this. This is definitely going to be, I'll give you the logical points of it and point out some of the things I did in my memo, but it's going to be a decision of what comes down to, is this an important piece that we want to have this gesture, I'll call it, in lowering the impact fees? So the original request came in for a 50% reduction. So to me, that was just kind of arbitrary. It's not tied to anything but potential size difference from a single family home. Then we have had this once before. We first did the impact fees in 2000. We did not have a townhouse fee. So when Wooten Woods was built, Frank Jameson came in, we went through a process. Most of our impact fee money, and certainly 100% of the connection fee money, goes to water and sewer capacity. So we looked at it from that angle. We said, we looked at all actual data that we have on files for all the townhomes and how much water and sewer use there is. We looked at single family homes like in the Westman and Westerly, and then we looked at Elizabeth Delight, Kettler, Stony Springs, and those. And there was a dramatic difference from the smaller size houses to the larger houses, whether people, use, landscaping, whatever it was. And it was multiple years we looked at. So the commissioners did create a new townhome fee specifically due to that reason. So when it came to me and asked me that, I sat down and said, the only way we can do this is have a rational nexus to something, and size was the first thing that came out, because during the whole process of going through this preliminary plan, they said they wanted to build houses 16, 18, maybe a couple of 2,000 square foot homes, and have a lower price point, build a small community. And it was the whole vision that we all went through the whole process. And we're really not tied to that in our plan right now. We have smaller lots, but they could build bigger homes, probably 24, maybe some 2,600 square foot houses. And we don't really have that as part of our approval process. So when they said this, and I was thinking, okay, well, the way to tie them to this, we wanted to do a gesture to maybe grant them a lower impact fee. And the only reason we're doing this is so they can take this to the county and get the county's impact fee lower. Ours is a drop in the bucket. It's a little over $4,000 per home, 60 homes. So not a lot of money as far as that goes on our side or their side. It's more of a gesture. Is this an important project for infill for our community that we want to do, and would do this in order for the county's impact fee to go lower. That way they could secure the lower price point, because we always talked about this could be more affordable homes. So this is where this is all kind of coming from. So, questions?
Yeah, I have it. Oh, go
Go ahead.
So, what's your estimate? Like, how much more? Because impact fees are largely covering water, correct? Water and sewer.
I mean, it's the same.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, it seems like small homes, the small homes with small yards would use more water potentially, and have more of an impact than a townhome would, but not as much as like a full-size home. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
I mean, maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but it seems to me that like we should do something, because it's not fair to give them the full impact fee. But maybe there's like a way we could meet them halfway or something like that. Like, not a townhome fee, but not a full size fee. I mean, I realize here we're not talking about a lot of money, but I don't know. I guess those are my thoughts.
I know, no, I feel exactly what you're feeling, because I'm the same way. We don't want to bend over backwards for a developer, but, yeah.
And that would be a gesture to the county too, like they would see that we did something, to try to make it fair. But I don't know
Right,
that,
it's
I don't know that it's totally fair to like give them a townhome impact fee when they're gonna have a little more impact than a townhome. Anyway, that's how I feel.
What's, forget about the redundancy in my wording of this question, but what is the impact of the lower impact fees? You know what I mean? I mean, to us, what does that really mean to the town of Poolsville?
$24,000. It's sure, everything's an impact, but to what degree? I mean, we're doing a water project now, it's gonna be several millions of dollars. I mean, so it's that type of a, 1 or 2% of a project, maybe, that type of impact.
I don't want to sound, I'm not trying to veil my feelings for this. The reason I'm asking is because we have a reason, like we have something to base it on to get it down to the $9,189 if they keep it under 2,000 square feet, right? That's a reasonable thing.
Well, I put that out there because that's the average size townhouse is anywhere from 16 to 2,000 square foot.
Right, and that's a defendable stance, right? And we could probably find some middle, but I'd like to see if we can get the county to follow our lead and do even better. Not to bend over backwards, but, I think the chances of us doing something really cool over there, making it really nice, would be better if we got the county to go in with lower impact fees. Otherwise, they're gonna, I don't know. I think if they don't get the lower impact fees from the county, they're not gonna care about the $4,000 impact fee savings in Poolsville, and they'll throw that out the window and they'll build everything at 2,400. You know what I mean? To
Right.
get the max they can.
Yeah, to give you a perspective, the county actually has 4 different categories for impact fees, and they range from infill areas like our 13,000 to areas like in the ag reserve and outside of the corridor of 270 that are over $50,000 per unit. And that's what they're going to be paying that anyways to the county at a $50,000 rate or whatever it is. It's over 50,000. So they do have different rates for different infill projects and different things also. So it's kind of a common thing.
I guess my feeling is it's a little bit, it's a less, not as big of an impact for us as it could be for them to do the project that we were kind of hoping that they could do if we can influence the county to go lower. And it's not that big of a, I don't think it's worth quabbling over 1,000 or 2. You know what I mean? I think we have something structured here that looks right, and I would hesitate to try and find something in the middle myself.
Right.
And to concur with you, it's defensible by going with, if we have to make up a third category, then that's very subjective. What are we basing that off of? Whereas if we go with the townhouse, especially since the difference is so small for us, it's definitely not going to be looked at as Jay's favorite phrase, arbitrary and capricious, when somebody brings it to court.
And I think this number is actually about halfway in between what they wanted, right? I mean, they wanted it down to, it's, 6,500 or something, so.
I mean, originally my thought was, we don't want to set precedent with stuff like this, but we're almost done building. This is not going to be a thing, a huge thing, and that's the only reason that I'm really willing to fully consider it, because if not, I would kind of go with you, Martin, and be like, we need a third category. We need something else that's consistent. But we don't have enough development left, and the places being proposed are not going to fall in this.
I concur. I had that same thought about the precedent topic this afternoon, and I thought, this isn't 10 years ago. This is now we're everything that gets built that we're currently are on the table, we're done. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. 10 years ago, I would have had a very different thought on this.
Yeah, I mean, I can be on board with that. I mean, it's like we were saying, it's not a lot of money, and it does make sense. And I don't want to be, as Jay would say, arbitrary and capricious. I do think that in the end, there's going to be a little more impact than a townhome, but that's okay. And they, correct me if I'm wrong, they can't, if for some reason they don't get what they want from the county, they can't come in and build 3,000 square foot homes, right? I mean, we granted
Yeah, the last line of the memo talks about if if consideration is given to reduce the fee to the townhouse rate, the PIA should include a clause, the project would only construct homes under 2,000 square feet.
But I'm just saying,
So that would be the hook.
Yeah.
That's right.
But I'm just saying, like, if it all falls through and the county says, you know, we're not gonna lower the impact fee, they can't change what they're gonna do and build, like, you know, huge homes, right?
No, this
That's not what we
would, this
agreed
is our thing, and it's, we have zoning authority, and this
Right.
PIA is
But-
tied to that, so I don't think what the county does would
They don't have
change
approval
that.
to do that.
No.
So
Right.
they-
No,
But,
let's talk about that.
let's not forget that they can pull the plug with this project. And then come back and say, where's, you know, the one thing they do hold over us a little bit is they can put, what is it, 3/4 acre lots out there, and there's really nothing we can do to change, to stand in the way of it. Is it less than that?
3/4 acres, they can.
Or is
Oh,
it
no,
half?
no, no, no.
Whatever it is.
No, no, no.
The zone,
Their lots are set and sized, okay?
And
And the
this-
buildings themselves, the goal of the lots are not
Yeah.
sized.
in this plan.
In this plan, that's right, we don't, yes,
Yes.
exactly correct.
Yeah.
So zoning just takes over, once you have the lot sizes, which we do on the preliminary plan, they can't, they
Right.
could fit a 2,500 square foot house probably on those lots. It would be just to the line of the setbacks that are in the zones, everything would just go to the regular zoning. For the setbacks and everything, that's in the overlay zone.
Yeah.
So.
They've always talked about smaller homes, this is the way we put the hook in to make
Yeah.
them, make sure they get the
Agreed.
smaller homes.
They, asking about pulling the plug, until they record the lots, they could walk away.
Yeah.
I hope they don't.
So do I.
Well-
And I don't think we're at that point, but, you know, that, there is that, there's just that other side of it. That this could all go away and before the next master plan's written, they could come back with something different. Don't think they're going to, but.
As much work as they go through to find a builder, I think they wanna get it done too.
Yep. So I don't see them, like Wade was saying, the most they could fill in these lots is 2,400. And that's the only way they could really stick it to us in this plan is not to, if the county doesn't help, they're gonna have to get as much money as they can for each one of those houses to offset the fees. I just don't know if they could even do it feasibly if the county didn't help, right? I mean, that's what they've told us all along.
Who knows?
And I assume that, obviously, this is just a recommendation from us, but this goes up to the commissioners. And I assume they're going to want the commissioners to help lobby very hard for the reduction in the fees at the county level.
That's what's gonna go along, if this all happens, exactly right. And so he's been working, Mr. Clifford called me a couple days ago, I let him know this was gonna be on the agenda, and he has been working with Marilyn Marcon and I forget another council member right now in discussions about this. And so, you know, they know that we're gonna be looking at it, so it is a gesture on our part that's gonna help him get it across the finish line. And he is gonna want some political advocacy from our part also to help get it through.
My thoughts are completely out of left field on this. So maybe my thoughts are crazy, but out of the box. So let me see if I understand this correct. So right now, their assessment fees for the town would be at the rate of a single-family home, which is 13.6. We're considering possibly giving them the townhouse rate of 9, with the stipulation that they can't build more than 2,000 square feet, which is consistent with townhouse size. But my question is, can we needle the county and say, look, we will take a reduced rate. So townhouse rates are roughly 33% lower than single-family homes. Can we say we will tie our reduction into the county's reduction up to, say, 45%? And so if the county is willing to help us make that, you know, missing middle housing, and they're willing to give a 40% impact reduction, then the town will match them with a 40% reduction. Is there some way, I mean, this is a legal question.
I love that, that's great. Yes, that could be a recommendation and motion to the commissioners, that does exactly what you want.
Right, because then the county has to, they can't give us some arbitrary reduction. They have to meet us dollar for dollar. Well, not dollar for dollar, but it's percentage. And that way, we're not saying, oh, we're going to give you some random reduction of 33%, or we're going to give you some no. we will match the county percentage-wise. But that was my only idea on this one.
No, that's great, because the county's
Well,
going
that's-
to have to have a logical rationale for this to meet their legal purposes, and then we just be piggybacking on whatever their legal basis is. So that works from the lawyer's standpoint.
So they did initially come in with that saying, we want you to drop it 50%, and we'll get the county to match the 50%. And the commissioners weren't comfortable with that at that time.
So
Why?
So, I think they just didn't want to make a commitment at that time. They want to say, well, they said, go to the county, see what you can do there first, and then come back to us. So we kind of, changed the rules on them, but that didn't work for the county.
I think something that is structured to say, this is what we can do in our current structure, but we will do this or match the percentage if it's greater that the county reduces their fees. You know what I mean? Like,
Or the county needs to match us, right?
or if they go lower than us, if they have a
At a minimal match us.
Yes.
Okay, we could put that language together, yes.
Would that still be tied to the 2,000 square foot or less?
Yeah.
It certainly would for our PIA, yes.
Okay,
That would be
'cause I like
part of
that.
the whole agreement.
Can we continue to encourage them? I mean, when they came and presented and we all agreed on this plan, like, their plan was not for 2,000 square feet, it was for considerably smaller. And I'd like to see them, honor that, because that's kind of what we all signed up for. So can we encourage them, 2,000 square feet is like the cap, but please honor what you already committed you to do.
Yeah, so Jay and I have been working on that. He's doing some research to let us know exactly how we should approach that.
Okay.
Because I'm not great at math or whatever, but if 2,000 square feet sounds like that would be those homes would be really close to each other. Because even at 1,200 square feet, they were relatively close to each other, so.
So does that
So
mean,
somebody would.
yeah, I was gonna
go
say,
ahead.
does that mean we can make a motion to do whatever Wade writes up? I mean, how do we, I mean, we don't have really anything in front of us specifically to,
Can I make a recommendation? So what I would say is, you make a motion to recommend to the commissioners that staff come up with a scheme to match the town's reduction in fees to that of the counties. So you're basically the outlines of the ideas.
And to set a maximum of
Yeah.
2,000 square feet
Right.
on the PAs.
Yeah, but doesn't that give the county an out? If we're not taking the lead and saying we're gonna do this, so why don't you do it?
So what, I'm gonna
Doesn't
make
that
a
give them an out,
I'm gonna make a recommendation, that you set the minimum reduction, whatever this percentage is, and if the county comes in at a lower rate, that you'll match that lower rate. That gives you two.
No, I didn't say that. I said we'd take us to a townhouse rate. I still like to have us tied to
Okay,
it.
yeah,
The
well,
county
the town-
minimally meet us.
I was using percentage because it's what's on the paper, so, yeah.
like, what I was thinking, I'm not sure if we're all trying to say this or not, but we recommend they approve the townhouse rate for this property, and that we would then match anything lower than that rate as a percentage of what the county reduces.
The townhouse rate is already reduced by 32.6%.
But if they go
Right,
to
but if
50,
they-
are we gonna stay at 32, or we're gonna go to 50?
But what if they came in at 45%, the
Right.
county came in at 45%?
But it'd be off the single-family style home, right?
Right,
Yeah.
So it'd just be another
right,
13%.
but that's what you're saying, you're gonna dangle that carrot, say, hey, county, we're willing to dance too, if you decide to go lower, we'll match that, like, we're willing to. But this is the only structure we have to base it on at this point.
I don't know that I love the idea of going lower than the townhome percentage rate. I don't know, maybe I'm having, is there one of the 4 categories at the county level that could even fall below that townhome rate? Like of 30%
So-
less?
They're more about, the townhouse rate is lower, but only by a couple $1,000. only. But they're more as sort of location for them, how they, reduce their impact fees.
So it looks like it's about 5 to 1. So for every, $1,000 that we give up, the county says, okay, we'll take 5,000 off the impact fee, roughly, right? If it's at the high, I mean, it may not quite be that high if it's not at the, but it's at least 3 times, right? We're thinking that it's probably at least in the $30,000 range. So it's a 3 to 1.
Yeah, something in that.
I don't know. I feel like if we are really committed to making these homes affordable, then before even foundation is laid, each house could be out a potential of, let's say $45,000 between impact fees. That's a lot of money that has to be made up by the home buyer. And if we can say, all right, well, we're going to take out, $2,000 from us and another, what is that, $6,000, so $8,000, that brings it down, to 48. It makes a difference.
Well, aren't you ignoring maybe I'm cynical, but whatever the market value is, if they can sell, they're gonna sell those homes for exactly what they can get for them. You know what I mean? And if they get a break from the county, that's great, but if they can sell those homes for just randomly pulling out a number, 500 grand, they're not gonna be like, oh, the county gave us 50,000 off, so we're gonna sell them for 450. They're gonna sell them for 500 grand if they can get 500 grand for them, I believe. I mean, whatever the market rate is, that's what they're gonna
So let me
charge.
jump right in there, because my conversations with Willard, they're working on a contract with the developer right now, and they will want to be able to write in this contract that any relief that they get on the impact fees will be directly given to the homeowners. Now, I've not seen the clause, but I know that's something they're working on.
Well, I can't speak to how crazy this market is. I can tell you that traditionally speaking, there is sort of a structure for the cost approach to new construction and what the general, overhead costs are that are built into it and those sort of things. So it is very likely that it could be passed, especially if it's going to be written into the contract to the buyer.
I'd like to see if it actually goes into the contract. I mean, that would be great, but, we'll see.
Are we saying that it would be at the townhouse rate or whatever the county's discount is, if the county's discount percentage-wise is lower, is greater than our townhouse?
more than-
Yeah. Is that the
I like that.
concept?
That's what I was.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And then we would cap it at a certain amount though, right? Like not to exceed 45%?
No.
Or no, we would not cap
I would,
it?
I wouldn't in my mind, but the one thing I might put in there, that if we could, that would be contingent on that clause being put in the
Yes.
the contract.
Yeah, I
The
like that.
2,000 square feet, absolutely.
I like that.
The 2,000
Remember, we're
square
just making a
feet
recommendation up
and-
to the commissioners. They're going to work with the town staff and the town attorney a lot more on what the final.
Yeah, and Wade, you're
wording
gonna,
of
you're
this
gonna,
is.
you're gonna talk to Jay about all this and make sure that this isn't arbitrary and capricious too, we'll match the county or whatever, right? Okay.
Yes. He knows where this conversation is actually happening, so we're good.
Good deal. I'm good with that.
All right, what do we say?
All right, let me try it. Sorry. I move that we recommend to the commissioners to reduce the, the impact fees for Fishpool to either the current townhouse rate or whatever the county's discount rate is, if the county's discount rate is lower than the percentage for the current townhouse fees. And that we cap their building size at 2,000 square feet for the Fishpool homes.
And the clause in there about passing the discount on to the home buyer, right? Or no?
I don't think we want to go there. I'd rather let the commissioners deal with that.
I think
If
you're
we're doing a
right.
recommendation, final, yeah, I'd want to go there. Remember, this is just a recommendation up to the commissioners. This is just kind of to kick it off. They can do this without us. They would just like our input before they go and really dig into this with the attorneys.
I'll second what Chuck said.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next on the agenda is, my favorite part of the meeting is number 7.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Have a good night.